This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Reporter Show, made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and joining us today is Andrew's going to give us this week's topics.
It is busy season for both the Lions and the Pistons. Free agency is well underway for the Lions, and trade deadline is about to approach here for the Pistons. We're covering them both. It's Fan Report.
So this week's episode is actually kind of a big one for us.
Because we have both free agency and trade deadline?
Well, more than just that. It's a big one and just on a personal level for us here between Andrew and I here at the Fan Report. And if there's any longtime listeners, this is actually our 100th episode with Detroit Sports Podcast. Obviously, the Fan Report as an entity has been around for...
It's 2017.
Yeah, so about 4 years now. A little over 4 years, actually. So we have a lot more than just 100 episodes. I mean, we've obviously done the Fanalists where we had 17 or so episodes, and we had our live show where we did a ton of episodes. And I mean, we've kind of been all over the gamut in all different forms of media in terms of written, spoken, and watched media all over the internet. So, but in terms of just Detroit Sports Podcast, this is the Fan Report's 100th episode. So it's kind of exciting. I'd say so.
I think our first drafts covered for each team were, I think, Pistons drafting Luke Kennard and Lions, I want to say, drafting Jared Davis. I think were the first two.
I think you might be right. That does sound about right. You know, it was funny you mentioned that because I read an article. I don't even remember who was doing it today, but I read an article of a 2017 NBA redraft, and the Pistons ended up getting
not Luke Kennard.
Thomas Bryant is who we ended up getting, which... All right, fine. A replacement for Drummond. And Thomas Bryant always is it. The difference between the two of them is Thomas Bryant is near the top of the league in field goal percentage, unlike Drummond.
Where does Spider Mitchell go?
Number 2, I believe.
Number 2.
Yeah, he goes number 2. I believe number 1 was Jason Tatum. Then Donovan Mitchell was number 2.
Yeah, I was in Beirut for that draft, and I was up late. I was up late tracking that draft, and I'm like, please take Donovan Mitchell. Because I remember when we were covering that draft, and I think we both said like Donovan Mitchell was in that if we stay in that range and don't trade out of it or trade up, Donovan Mitchell was the guy we'd like there.
See, thing is that was the guy that honestly a lot of Pistons fans thought they were going to take too, because he had worked out for the Pistons numerous times, and all the reports that came out was how much the Pistons loved Donovan Mitchell. And how, he was probably the likely guy that they were going to take. And then all of a sudden we take Luke Kennard on draft day, and I'm going, okay, I mean, he's a good shooter. All right. And then, the rest is history, and Donovan Mitchell's a superstar, and Luke Kennard is not.
Yep.
But, no, it was interesting that you just mentioned that, and I saw that today. But either way, let's start off with some Lions talk today to kick off our 100th episode. Did you ever think we'd make it?
I thought I'd be dead well before then.
So, but before we jump in, cheers to you, Andrew, and cheers to Detroit Sports Podcast and to our listeners out there for sticking with us.
Should have brought a beer onto the show for once.
I always have one.
Yeah, probably misses the we on our OG show we used to do beer streams. Those used to be fun. And then it turned into just every stream being a beer stream.
Yes, it did. We had the beer streams where there was a lot of beer drink on those streams. Like,
because it used to be twice a week, and we have one show during the weekday and one on the weekend. The weekend would be our drunk stream.
Right.
And then it just went, I just drink on the weekday too.
That weekend stream, that beer stream was very much unfiltered and sometimes got a little rowdy. It was a good time. I kind of miss those. But
so shout out to anyone if you're listening from the old show. Shout out.
Yeah. We really thank you guys for sticking with us this long. But let's go ahead and jump into some Lions talk here. We're going to kind of go around the horn with free agency. Did you want to start with cuts, signings?
Let's talk cuts first.
Cuts first. All right.
I think they're the more interesting ones, to be honest with you.
Honestly, some of the cuts have been fairly interesting. It's some of them are recognizable names, honestly, with the likes. Yeah, with the likes of guys like Christian Jones, Desmond Trufant, Justin Coleman, all cut within the last week, I believe. Jesse James, Joe Dahl, Chase Daniel, Danny Shelton. I believe Chase Daniel and Danny Shelton were today or yesterday?
I think that was that was today, I think.
Today?
Sorry,
okay.
Today.
So are you going to miss any of those names, Andrew? No, not at all?
I'm happy Brad Holmes is going the Troy Weaver route and let's just clean house. Let's just start a new slate here. And it's what the Lions have needed. And is it that I don't like these guys? No. I'll be
honest with you. I don't really like all of them. I don't like most of them, in fact. I can see what Brad Holmes is doing here. He came into a situation where the Lions weren't necessarily completely strapped for cash. They weren't in Atlanta Falcons or Houston Texans type situation where you had $0 of free cap or negative dollars in Atlanta's case. But it was a situation where the Lions did not have a ton of money to spend in free agency, had a roster of guys that really just kind of lacked talent. And you saw some of the contracts that were on the books, and you were able to either lessen the cap hit or get rid of it altogether. And that's what he did. He saw guys that just weren't going to be a part of the system. I'm sure that he discussed a lot of the personnel with his coaches in those position groups. I'm sure Aaron Glenn was Aaron Glenn was involved in the discussions and releasing guys like Desmond Trufant and Justin Coleman because they just weren't worth the cap hit at this point. I mean, Trufant was terrible last year, and Justin Coleman, albeit is a solid nickelback and a solid slot corner, but if you ask him to play out wide, he's not very good either, and he definitely wasn't worth the amount of money that the Lions were paying him in any way. And then then there's Chase Daniel, who, why the hell did we pay him that much in the first place? And my God, is he terrible?
Speaking of Chase Daniel, Mike Clay earlier today, he tweeted out the top available free agent QBs right now on the market, and this is a list right here.
Oh God:
Mitchell Trubisky, Nick Mullins, Alex Smith, C.J. Beathard, Chase Daniel, Joe Flacco, Mike Glennon, Blake Bortles, Brian Hoyer, Blaine Gabbert. Who are you taking?
I mean, honestly, I can win with Alex Smith. Yeah. I can win with C.J. Beathard or Nick Mullins. The 49ers were able to do it. I can possibly win with Mitch Trubisky as long as I have talent elsewhere. Mike Glennon's not very good. Blake Bortles hasn't seen a football in years, and he wasn't very good then. Who else is on that list?
When was the last time Blaine Gabbert threw a football?
I thought he played last year.
Did he?
I think so.
Oh,
I thought he got into some spot time last year.
Brian Hoyer is on the list. Joe Flacco.
Brian Hoyer is still in the league?
Brian Hoyer is still in the league.
I did not know this.
Didn't he beat the Lions last year? Didn't he beat the Lions last year, Brian Hoyer?
Maybe. I don't know. Blaine Gabbert actually played in 4 games last year for Tampa. He threw 16 passes, completed 9 of them for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. So, could be worse. You could have Chase Daniel as your starting quarterback. Does part of you wish Chase Daniel was your starting quarterback going into next year, knowing you would go like 0-16 or somehow 1-15 and guarantee the top pick? Like if you wanted to openly tank, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, for the tank, yeah, but like please don't subject me to watching 16 games of Chase Daniel.
No, I would, honest to God, have to turn off Lions football for the year. I would have to get like all the NFL packages I could pause, NFL Sunday tickets, so I could watch out-of-network games.
Like this was the Lions as previously constructed with like last year with Stafford, but like just terrible coaching and a really incomplete defense. That was at least a more fun way to watch a team lose. So
at times, some of those games were a struggle.
But like I think it's the best you can. If you put Chase Daniel under center, then I can't even have a fun time watching the offense. That was the only thing I had a fun time watching last year. So it's just like, oh God.
I mean, part of me would have a fun time watching how comical it would be. Like,
you know what would be the fun of it? Run up the spread on the other team with whoever the Lions are facing and see how ballsy you are, how much of a spread you could take against the Lions.
kind of reverse tease it.
Yeah. All right, I got the Vikings minus 18.5. I think they'll cover. I push it to 18.5. We'll see.
But so you don't have any problems with the cuts that the Lions had made?
No,
here.
absolutely not.
None at
absolutely
all.
Not.
And I'm honestly going to agree with you. I really don't have any problems with any of the cuts the Lions made here. And I mean,
I'll be honest, the only people I'd have an issue with them cutting at this point are guys like DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson.
Which are guys they're not going to cut.
Exactly.
Your primary three along the left side of the offensive line, they're not cutting.
Yep.
In Decker, Jonah Jackson, and Frank Ragnow. Obviously, they're guys that are going to be a part of the future of this franchise, along with Swift and Hawkinson. And frankly, I'd argue that Jeff Okuda is going to get a shot as well, but I'd argue that those are really the only guys that are truly safe on this roster for the foreseeable future. But other guys that remain unsigned being AP, Kenny Galladay, Mohamed Sanu, Danny Amendola, Ode Abushi, Everson Griffin, Reggie Ragland, Darryl Roberts, Tony McRae, Duron Harmon, Miles Killebrew, Matt Prater, and Don Muehlbach. Any of those names would you like to see come back?
We can keep Matt Prater on, I guess, but yeah, bye.
He sucked last year. I don't even want him anymore. He sucked last year. Don't get me wrong. Prater's been an awesome kicker throughout his career, and especially in a Lions uniform, but last year he was terrible. I'd bring him back just to see if he could recapture some of what he did before, but as soon as I start seeing glimpses of what he did last year, I honestly would start having open tryouts for a kicker. Because I'll bring him back just because, but there's actually a couple. Because
whatever
names,
kicker you're going to bring in is going to be a stopgap anyways.
Right. There is actually a couple names on this list I'd like to see come back. Miles Killebrew is one. Okay. He is a big-time player on special teams and has been for a while, and those guys, you can't get too many of them. Mm-hmm. So he's one name I would like to see come back. And Don Muehlbach is the other one. He's the most consistent and one of the top long snappers in NFL history. And how can you have a Lions team in the 21st century without Don Muehlbach? Let's be honest.
I feel that just for the Lions' pride there. But again, I guess there would be a part of me that's a little sad that, Don Muehlbach is gone, but at the same time, it's not like I'm going to be so torn apart that a guy like Don Muehlbach is completely replaceable. Because at the end of the day, it is a long snapper.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Other exclusive rights free agents for the Lions, Jason Kabinda, Matt Nelson, and Jack Fox. The only name I want to see back for sure there is Jack Fox, one of the best punters in the league.
Yep, I forgot about Jack Fox.
So, obviously, the direction the Lions are taking is total rebuild. There's no question about it, and they need to. In all reality, they need to badly because the direction that the team was going was not a positive one, and hopefully it can be now.
Did you see that Jared Davis signed with the Jets?
I did see that.
Did
good
you
riddance.
see what Ian Rappaport said about Jared Davis signing with the Jets?
I did not. What did he say?
So he said last year Jared Davis had limited snaps in Detroit, but teams felt he wasn't used properly and his market was real. Now the Jets land a premium defender.
Premium? Really? I'd like to see where this premium is coming from because, my God, is he terrible.
I get the argument that he'll be more effective if you blitz him more and play him less in coverage because he's not really a coverage linebacker. But at the same time, I think it's a little bit of a stretch to call him premium.
He's a pass rusher. That's all he can do. You ask him to do anything else, he's terrible. He's an interior linebacker pass rusher. He's a Mike Blitz type guy.
Yeah, exactly. I get the opinion. I actually agree with the opinion of he could actually be more productive when used properly. But that's about where I end it right there. I wouldn't go as far as
he's a rotational player at best in my eyes. The other guys that signed elsewhere, Jamal Agnew and Marvin Jones. Jamal Agnew getting a 3-year, $14.25 million deal with the Jaguars. Impressive. I don't know why the hell they're paying him that kind of money, but I'm not going to really miss Jamal Agnew. Sure, he had a good year as a return specialist, but in all reality, in the last few years, he's been very lackluster as a return man to the point where I believe he was even benched at times from that position. So I won't miss him. I don't know about you. Will you miss Jamal Agnew?
No. In terms of, I had nothing against Jamal Agnew, but at the same time, he wasn't really on the field much as a wide receiver, and kick returners are not irreplaceable.
Right.
It's not, I'm not going to miss him.
And then Marvin Jones getting a 2-year deal, also with the Jaguars. I'll miss Marvin Jones, but it was just time for him to go elsewhere. It really was. And I think that's actually a pretty solid spot for him. There's weapons in Jacksonville. They've got a good young receiving core. And
busy wide receiver core.
Yes, but I do think he'll be able to carve out opportunities and a very young but potentially elite tier or top tier quarterback coming in Trevor Lawrence in all likelihood. So there's a lot to be excited about if you're Marvin Jones going into Jacksonville.
Yeah. Should we talk about who we re-signed and signed?
Let's do it.
One guy that I honestly would have missed had he been gone, I would have been mad about it, but I would have missed him, was Romeo Quara. But we actually ended up re-signing him after not extending the tag to him. We also re-signed Jalen Reeves-Maybin and Mike Ford. Do you agree with bringing these guys back?
Romeo Quara, absolutely. He was a guy who really had a breakout year. I believe he had 10.5 sacks last year. He really was the lone bright spot for the Lions pass rush. And maybe you can argue that pure necessity, just like he got those numbers by default, so maybe in a better system he doesn't shine as much. But regardless, I do think he's a really solid pass rusher in the Lions, and you can never have too many pass rushers in this league, and the Lions need them. So when you have a guy in Romeo Quara who clearly wanted to stay here to be able to have the opportunity to play with his brother, or continue playing with his brother, and he obviously likes it here, he was deserving of the 3-year, $39 million a year deal. Like that, yes, that's an expensive deal, but at the same time, it's not entirely breaking the bank for a pass rusher, especially a guy who's going to get you double-digit sacks. So I think bringing Romeo Quara back was definitely, in my mind, the right move.
And I'd say it's even less expensive than what you see on just at face value of 339, because actually only $25 million that's guaranteed too. So
right,
it's not like a fully guaranteed deal. So I don't mind the contract at all. I think it's 3 years, 25 guaranteed. I think it's really good value for what you're getting in Romeo Quara.
So essentially, after 2 years, if he's not productive, you cut him.
Yeah,
and you don't have a cap hit at that point. So
exactly.
It's a good deal in my mind, and it's a guy who I think not necessarily is a premier pass rusher in the league, but it's a premium position and a guy who is in the upper half of the league in terms of skills at that and productivity at that position. And
coming off a career year, so
yes. And Jalen Reeves-Maybin is another guy that, like, he's a rotational guy. 1 year's $2.5 million. That's really not going to break the bank. My only question is, like, is it worth giving a $2.5 million deal to a guy that is going to see spot minutes or spot snaps and rotational type situations? I mean, it's only 1 year, so I'm not going to get mad about it.
In terms of guys we brought in, Tyrell Williams and Josh Hill. Josh Hill looks like he'll be replacing Jesse James. And I also read earlier today that his son asked him to sign somewhere where it snows. So I think he accomplished that much.
I think it was a situation with Josh Hill where his coach in New Orleans is now the head coach in Detroit. Yeah. And he, obviously he was liked over there. So he was brought in here to fill a specific role that the Lions want him to play. But
I don't expect him to be much of an impact player. Probably exactly what Jesse James was doing on the team.
Right. With probably quite a bit more blocking opportunities out there, because Josh Hill was a solid blocker, and Dan Campbell knows how to coach him up. So you might see Josh Hill come in and be a really solid blocking presence for the Lions. Tyrell Williams, though, I am actually a little bit excited about, because this is a guy that I've seen flashes from, and I just don't think he's ever truly gotten an opportunity to shine. And I'm not saying he's going to be just this electric 1,200-yard receiver here. He's not going to replace Kenny Galladay. I don't think he's quite that good. I think he's a solid wide receiver too. But the Lions are obviously looking to rebuild their wide receiver room. And this is more of a prove-it deal for Tyrell Williams as well. A 1 year, $3 million deal. It's cheap. So it gives an opportunity for Tyrell Williams to break out and make a name for himself, maybe get a big deal next year. So it's a solid signing in my mind.
Yeah, and to me, I think this is going to be the most opportunity he's had in terms of targets since his San Diego days, and when he was at the San Diego Chargers, and I'm pretty sure he had a 1,000-yard season with them. So I'm not saying I'm expecting a 1,000-yard season from Tyrell Williams, but I would not be surprised if he hit 800 yards.
I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's that far out of the realm of possibility, because again, like you mentioned, who else is the ball going to go to? As of right now, we have nobody else. I mean, sure, if we were to draft Jamar Chase, he'd probably be your number one, which would push Tyrell number two, so he'd probably get more of the Marvin Jones type targets. But as of right now, he is your top guy. So there's a good chance he would hit 1,000 yards at that point. But regardless, we don't know until we find out what we do in the draft and what our wide receiver room is going to look like after that. But Tyrell Williams is a tall receiver. He's got some speed and some downfield threat ability, and maybe that's an opportunity for the Lions to make something out of a guy who they got on the cheap and a chance for him to prove himself as well. But with him being here, does this definitely spell goodbye to Kenny Golladay? Are we closing the book on the Kenny Golladay tenure here in Detroit?
Oh, I had already closed the book on the tenure, so yeah.
All right.
I'm
kind of right there with you. He's kind of in my rearview mirror at this point. He was fun while he was here, but I don't think it's the right time for him anymore to be here. I think he can go elsewhere and be successful, and I'm not saying
I'm really curious
to
see where he signs.
I am too. I'm hearing well with the Bears franchising Allen Robinson, he's probably not going there.
But he refused to sign the tag.
Oh, that's right. He did refuse to sign the tag. That's right. Well, I still don't know if they signed Kenny Golladay because technically they still own his rights, Allen Robinson. I just don't think he'll report to camp because if you franchise him, I think technically you still own the rights. I don't know. I don't remember how it works.
In terms of Kenny Golladay, per ESPN's Jordan Randon, the Giants and certain other teams seem to be interested. Well, they basically have questions about Kenny Golladay, and because of that, they're interested only at certain price points, which I find interesting.
Well, I mean, this is a year where I think Allen Robinson's making a big mistake by not signing the tag. And the reason I say that is because when you get the franchise tag, you obviously get the average of the top 5 paid players at your position. That's your salary for the year. It's fully guaranteed. This year in particular is a really bad year to be a free agent because the cap went down. Yeah. And yes, the cap dropped $15 million from last year, or $10 million, one of the two. But in all reality, it dropped like $25 million because the cap has increased $10 million a year for the past 10 years. And this year, it went down a significant number. So you got to factor that in as well. So players aren't teams are going to be stingy on the free agent market. They're not going to pay these massive contracts to these guys. So if I were Allen Robinson or
I'm talking about Kenny Golladay right now, but yeah, it applies to Allen Robinson for sure.
Right, it does. But obviously Lions didn't offer the tag to Kenny Golladay, so it's a different situation. But if I'm Kenny Golladay, I'm signing a contract with a team that I can get opportunities and be a number one somewhere and earn a big contract next year. I'll sign a 1-year deal this year for $10 million, which is probably a huge discount for a guy like that, to be a number one, get an opportunity to put up some big numbers where next year I can get paid on a long-term deal. Because this is not a good year if you're Kenny Golladay in the free agent market. Mm-hmm. So I'm either looking to go somewhere and win, or I'm looking to go somewhere and prove myself that I am a true number one and get paid next year.
It looks like Bleach Report has the Dolphins and then the aforementioned Giants as the top 2 suitors for Kenny Golladay.
I think the Dolphins would be a good fit.
I'd be very interested to see because neither team has like a top tier quarterback. We've yet to see. Well, that depends if Tua takes another step up this year, but obviously the Giants quarterback situation is a little bit of a mess with Daniel Jones right now.
Right.
So.
I think the Dolphins would be a really interesting situation. One, it's Miami. Who doesn't love that?
Well, yeah, there's that.
2, you've got a young quarterback with a lot of potential there. And in all reality, he'd walk into the room as the number 1 receiver. Devontae Parker ain't going to, ain't going to top Kenny Golladay there. And Tua Tagovailoa doesn't like Devontae Parker anyways. Mm-hmm. So he'd be the top guy from day one. And I think Tua would be able to develop a really good rapport with Kenny Golladay there. And I think they'd be a little bit more willing to open up the playbook for Tua with you when you have a target like Kenny Golladay out there. Plus, he'd have a running game.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, AP did say there's a lot of teams that have reached out to him for a contract. Dude's going to keep moving, man. It's unbelievable to me how long he's lasted.
I mean, you think about it, Frank Gore was in the league like last year.
Yeah.
He's pushing 57 now? Honestly, God, it feels like the dude's been in the league for so freaking long.
I mean, I still think it's insane that Tom Brady just signed another deal at 45 years old.
Yeah, didn't he sign a 2-year extension or something?
Was it 2 years?
Yeah, I thought it would take him through his 45th birthday. Is what it would take. Is what this 2-year extension would take him through.
I thought he was gonna be 45 at the. Oh no, it takes him through his 45th.
Yeah,
birthday,
that's what it was. It would take him through his 45th year. Again, if I'm Giselle Bundchen,
he'll be 44 to start the season.
If I were Giselle Bundchen, he would be getting an earful from me.
No, he's gonna play till he's 50, man.
Vinny Testaverde 2.0. I'm telling you. Shall we move on over to the Pistons?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, a lot of things going on with the Pistons. It's trade deadline season, and Pistons have a lot of guys that they brought in that they have upped their value throughout the season and now seem to be valuable trade assets. So the way we're going to tackle this is James Edwards of The Athletic. He put out an article where he kind of threw together a bunch of different scenarios to a bunch of different teams, and he actually had the beat writer of the team weigh in. So I'm going to do something fun. I'm going to propose a trade to you, Nick. I'm going to see what you think of it, and then I'm curious to see what you think the other team's beat writer, like if they would accept the trade or not.
Okay, I'm down with that. I like when we do these.
All right. First trade is with the Atlanta Hawks. We give up DeLon Wright, who's on a 2-year, $9 million contract, for Rajon Rondo, who's on 2 years, $7.5 million, and a 2022 first-round pick.
Signed, done deal.
Well, yeah, I agree. I definitely
signed, done deal. I mean,
DeLon of owning a first round.
Okay, let me preface my standpoint and my philosophy on how I'm looking at this roster moving forward.
Oh, my standpoint is I hold myself out for first round picks.
I'll go beyond that. I'll even go beyond that. Unless you are a part of the young core future of this franchise, if you're willing to give me draft capital or expiring contracts for said player on this team, I'll shake your hand right now and walk away.
Yeah.
Because guys like DeLon Wright, not a part of my future plans. Wayne Ellington, not a part of my future plans. Like guys like that, you can take them. Give me draft capital. Whatever. Done deal. 100%. Yeah. Especially if you're telling me I can get a first-round pick for DeLon Wright. Hell yeah.
I agree with you 100%. Now, do you think the Hawks beat writer actually likes to trade?
He probably laughed at our faces.
So Chris Kirshner of the Atlanta Hawks, he said there's no denying that DeLon Wright is definitely the more useful player on the court, as Rondo's largely been ineffective, and it's led to kind of a hole in the backup point guard spot for the Hawks. However, the Hawks do value his leadership and mentorship and probably wouldn't be willing to give up a first-round pick just to get him off the books.
Which is fair. I mean, DeLon Wright also has taken on a mentorship role for the young guards here in Detroit as well. So you wouldn't really be missing that. The other thing is, I don't necessarily think that the Hawks would be so quick to pull the trigger on a trade anymore. And the reason I say it is because they've really, since the firing of their head coach and the bringing of the interim coach, I believe Nate McMillan is who it is. Since they brought him on board, the team has been like stupid hot, and I don't even know if they've lost a game since, or if they have, it's won.
Yeah.
So they're like playing really good basketball all of a sudden after firing their head coach. So if they found something that works, again, if it's not broke, why fix it?
Now, the next trade is with the Boston Celtics. Pistons trade Wayne Ellington to the Celtics for a 2022 second-round pick.
Yes, done deal. Again, Wayne Ellington's not a guy that's going to get a first.
Yeah, and he's not.
Second of all, I'm just glad I can get a draft pick for him. He's not a part of my future plans. If you can give me draft capital, sign, done deal. Hell yeah. See,
there's just part of me that wonders, and it may just be me being greedy.
You're being greedy.
I feel like I wonder if there's a team that'd be willing to give up 2 seconds, because he's been one of the best 3-point shooters in the league this year, and 3-point shooting is a hot commodity in today's NBA.
Yes, but I mean, if you ask him to start putting up volume, is that 3-point shooting gonna continue? I mean, a guy who shoots 3-4 threes a game, sure, he's gonna, and he makes a good number, yeah. But if you ask him to start shooting 6, 7, 8 threes a game, he probably doesn't make as many. I don't know. I don't necessarily see 2 second-round picks for Wayne Ellington. If I can get one, if I can get anything for him, I'll take it. Not a part of my future, and he's no good to me by walking out the door for nothing.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'll still take a second-round pick for Wayne Ellington. I'm just curious how, if we could find a team that would give us 2 of them. But he got 2 Celtics beat writers to respond to this. How do you think they think about this trade?
I think they would be on board with it. I do, because that's a team that would love to have some more shooting on their roster. It's a situation where they're obviously no strangers to trading draft picks. So I think Wayne Ellington would help that team win some games this year and be really competitive and a big threat, adding another outside shooter like that. So I think they would be more than willing to try to try to go get Wayne Ellington for a second-round pick.
Yeah, Jay King and Jared Weiss of the Celtics both said that they would do the trade. They both say that's a cheap price to pay for a quote-unquote knockdown catch-and-shoot wing. So,
and I agree with him. I don't disagree with that at all.
So far, I like both these trades. Next up, Brooklyn Nets. Pistons trade Wayne Ellington and Mason Plumlee to the Brooklyn Nets for Spencer Dinwiddie and a 2022 second.
I'm going to say no to this.
I agree with you.
The reason I say this is because we talked about Spencer Dinwiddie in trade in coming in Detroit, and it just doesn't make sense to me. It never did before, and it doesn't now. No thanks. I would rather trade those guys individually for 2 seconds, or maybe you can squeeze a first out of them two together. I don't know, but I don't see a fit for Spencer Dinwiddie in the future of this organization. So I'll pass.
Yeah, and you're creating a logjam at what's already going to be a pretty busy position,
especially with the emergence of Saban Lee.
Yeah, because then you have Killian Hayes coming back from injury pretty soon here, and then if knock on wood, if the basketball gods grace us with Cade Cunningham in the offseason.
Oh God, yes, please.
You got an issue on your hands. Now, James Edwards.
It's a good issue to have, though.
Yeah, but James Edwards backed it up by saying Spencer Dinwiddie's a dynamic guard that basically it gives the opportunity for the Pistons to showcase him and potentially get solid value in next year's deadline for him. I'm just not going to take that chance because next year he's on an expiring $10 million deal, so it's not like it's going to be a ton of money coming off the books for a team. And at the same time, this is an off-injured point guard who, while healthy, does provide value, but ain't getting no younger. So nope. I don't like it. Do you think the Nets liked it?
I think they loved it.
You're right.
I think that they would rush to the they would be sitting here. Here's how that conversation would go. So I'm the Nets front office. All right.
Uh-huh.
So Troy Weaver offers me this trade, and I'd have to say, Troy, let me get back to you real quick. Hang on the line just a second. I'd hit the mute button, and I'd just start giggling to myself and anybody else in my office about, "Ooh, we're gonna get him good." I'd be so excited if I was the Brooklyn Nets front office with this, because you would absolutely fleece the Pistons in my mind with this trade.
Yeah, and the Nets could use a center like Mason Plumlee because you're not going to be relying on DeAndre Jordan for too many minutes. And at the same time, if I were the Nets, I wouldn't want to sign Andre Drummond either. They seem to be interested in it.
I dogged the signing in the first place, and I kind of dogged the player quite a bit. I've enjoyed having Mason Plumlee on this team, and I think he's actually a really valuable piece to any team out there.
Did you hear what the San Antonio Spurs broadcast team said about him yesterday?
I did not.
They said that Mason Plumlee getting a triple-double cheapens the value of a triple-double. I'm like, come on.
Wow. Those be fighting words.
Wait, that's just disrespectful. Come on.
That's just straight up mean.
If anything, Russell Westbrook averaging a triple-double cheapen the value of a triple-double.
I mean, he openly, purposely, took numbers away from teammates so he could get triple-doubles on some nights. That cheapens it. You didn't really earn it, so to speak, at that point.
You know how hard it is to get triple-double as a center?
Not easy. I mean, sure, you guys got guys like Nikola Jokic who flirt with it every single night, but Nikola Jokic is arguably he is the best center in the league outside of maybe JoJo Embiid.
Yeah.
And Jokic may be my favorite player in the league. I love watching the dude play. He's a wizard. But again, having a guy who's been considered a Jokic light or a poor man's Nikola Jokic and Mason Plumlee has been nothing but a joy in my mind. And I do think he actually has quite a bit of value for just about any team out there.
Yeah, he's definitely fared a lot better here than I expected him to.
100%.
Now, next trade, Dallas Mavericks. This is another Wayne Ellington trade. The Pistons trade Wayne Ellington to the Mavericks for a 2021 second, a 2022 second, and Wes Iwundu. I don't know who that is.
Wayne Ellington for 2 second-round picks and Wayne Iwundu?
Wes Iwundu.
He's
a small forward.
This is one where Troy Weaver hits the mute button and starts giggling to himself about how excited he gets. I don't even know who Wes Iwundu is, but you're giving me 2 second-round picks? Hell yeah.
And this is what I was saying before, and I promise you I did not look this far down ahead of time, that I wonder if we can get a team to give us 2 seconds for Wayne, and here comes this trade. So yeah, I would definitely do this trade, and you can just cut Wes Iwundu. I mean, unless he's some hidden gem that I don't know about.
I don't even know who he is. But if you're
he was a second round pick in 2017.
Okay, so now if you're the Dallas Mavericks here's how I think the Mavericks beat writers responded to this, and this may be surprising to you. I think that they liked it. And the reason I say that is because that's a team who really needs some help because they've underperformed so far this year. They're trying to win with Luka now. I think that they'd see an opportunity to add perimeter shooting in Wayne Ellington and consistent perimeter shooting in Wayne Ellington and jump at the opportunity to get it. So yes, I do think that the beat writers would want this. You're
actually pretty spot on. Tim Cato of Dallas Mavericks said that they own, outside of Tim Hardaway, they don't really have anyone comparable to Wayne Ellington in shooting this season, and they need to surround Luka with shooters. So it seems like a feasible trade, and he did say that it's giving up 2 second rounders for him is kind of a trickier proposition. It could potentially be worth it, so you could see it happening. So you didn't absolutely love it, but he didn't say no.
Yeah, no, that's what I kind of meant by it. They're not going to love doing it, but it's almost like they have to.
Yeah,
because they're a team that has underperformed in a big way this year, and they're really trying to make some noise in the West and do it now and do it right now. And a good way to help put them in the right direction is by bringing in a guy like Wayne Ellington for sure.
All right, next team up is the Milwaukee Bucks. Again, Wayne Ellington being traded to the Bucks for a 2022 second.
Well, when you're up near the top of the league in 3-point shooting, teams want you
for a 2022 second and DJ Wilson. It definitely seems like James Edwards did not expect Wayne Ellington to be on this team past the trade deadline.
And I agree with him. In fact, I'll go as far as saying if he is on the team past the deadline, I'll be disappointed.
Yeah, there you go.
And this is another one where I'd say, yeah, sure. Second round pick, done deal. That's all it takes. I mean, if you tell me that they pass up a deal that had 2 second round picks involved to bring in DJ Wilson, yeah, I'll be a little bit pissed off. But no, if this is the best offer on the board that's out there, yes, I'm going to say yes to this trade, and I think the Bucks would also say yes to this trade. I think the beat writers would be happy with this as well.
Do you think DJ Wilson has the potential to make for a reclamation project? He was fun to watch at U of M, but
do you want me to be honest or do you want me to be nice?
No, you got to be honest here.
No.
Okay.
In fact, I'd go as far as I think he's cut fodder. I think he'd be cut.
I don't think he even cracks rotation in Milwaukee.
I think he'd get cut.
The Bucks beat writer likes it. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
You're getting Wayne Ellington for his second and cut fodder. So all right, this one is juicy. This is a little change of pace, and it's juicy. Trading with the New Orleans Pelicans here. The Pistons give up Mason Plumlee and Josh Jackson for JJ Redick and a 2021 first-round pick.
JJ Redick is in the league still? I thought he retired 4 years ago.
He's on an expiring $13 million deal, and then you get a first-round pick as well.
So, okay. I'm not as excited about trading away Josh Jackson because he's a reclamation project that I personally believe in. Mm-hmm. He's still young, has a lot of potential, and has even shown flashes this year. However, you're telling me I get a first-round pick for his ass that may not actually do anything in Mason Plumlee, who I don't think is part of the future? Yes, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to pass up a first-round pick in this draft in 2021.
Yes.
As nice as Josh Jackson's actually been this season, we're still waiting for him to get that three-point percentage up, and it's going to be a big part of whether or not he actually fully blossoms as a Detroit reclamation project. But at the same time, I was hoping we could parlay both these guys into a first each at some point.
Yeah, you ain't getting quite there yet.
I know we're not there yet, but right at this stage, a 2021 first, I'll take it. As long as it doesn't have an insane amount of protections on it.
What team was this? Sorry.
This is the New Orleans Pelicans.
Okay, the Pelicans. Yeah, I'd absolutely do this.
I think are in the lottery, if I'm not mistaken.
I actually thought they were in the top 8 in the West.
They currently are tied for 8th in the lottery. 8th overall in the lottery.
So if I'm the Pelicans beat writers, I'm thinking no. I wouldn't be giving up draft capital to bring in a reclamation project and a guy who really doesn't, it's Mason Plumlee.
I agree with you there. The only benefit you have is getting a return for JJ Redick before he comes off the books.
Right.
That's really the only benefit you have there.
But again, couldn't you argue that the $13 million coming off the books in a city like New Orleans with the opportunity to play alongside Lonzo Ball and Zion Williamson, who, mind you, Lonzo Ball has really kind of come on this year, wouldn't you think that'd be quite a bit more attractive for a free agent? Because I do.
Well,
that's just
Will Gallery of the New Orleans Pelicans says he does like the idea of getting some young talent in return for Redick. He says, and he agrees that Jackson would be a good fit and provide some size on the perimeter, and Plumlee, but he doesn't know if adding Plumlee's contract to the books when they already have Steven Adams and Jackson Hayes in the front court would make much sense. So he says there is a start of something here, but his guess is that they would ultimately say no. He does not mention not being willing to give up the first round pick.
Interesting. Okay.
So he says no for reasons we didn't expect them to say no for.
No, especially if it's a lot. I would bet you it's probably top 10 or lottery protected, but
it would have to be. There's no way they give us an unprotected first round pick in this draft.
Right.
All right. The last trade, Washington Wizards. Can you guess who we sent to the Wizards?
Wayne Ellington.
Yes.
Yes.
For a 2022 second via Chicago, ourselves, or LA, whichever is most favorable. By ourselves, they have our second for next year, as well as Anthony Gill and Isaac Bonga.
Yes. Done. Here, take them. Draft capital. I'll take the pick, even if it's my own. I'll take it.
And I had much of what we said before. It's Wayne Ellington, you want to capitalize on the way he's shooting right now, and second round pick is likely what you're looking at. You'd be really fortunate to get 2 seconds like in that Dallas trade. But if a team's offering a pick for Ellington, grab the pick.
See, the thing I like is if you can get a second round pick in this year's draft, this is the one draft where I'd say like a second round pick has more value than a second round pick has ever had. And it's because that there's so much.
This is 2022, but yeah,
right.
I would agree with you.
If you can get them to do this year's draft, for instance, like this year's draft, the second round fines are going to be there. Like you can get a good talent in the second round this year that nobody knew about, and the reason is because of COVID entirely. Like, these college players and teams weren't able to play a real basketball schedule this year. They weren't allowed to play a ton of non-conference games, and a lot of games got canceled, and they really weren't able to work out 100% fully for these teams or the combine or anything like that. Like, it's just a year where scouting is at an all-time minimum.
Yeah.
So you're going to have fines all over this draft. So stocking up on draft capital in this year's draft, in my mind, is really the best possible scenario. So I would absolutely, if you can get a second round pick for this year's draft for him, yes, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Because he does you no good after this year.
It's a similar argument to what we were talking about for last year's NBA draft, where he didn't have a tournament, which already creates a ton of unknown with the NBA draft, and second round picks because of that could actually end up being valuable because you could have guys fall that could have driven their stock up in the tournament. And hey, looks like we have a nice gem in Saban Lee because of that. Right. So now, do you think the Washington Wizards do this trade?
I do. They're a team that is also probably looking to add shooting. Well, actually, now that I think about it, maybe not, because they're one of the worst teams in the East, aren't they?
The Wizards? No, they've been playing really well.
They're 14-24. They're near the bottom of the East.
Yeah, but they've as of recently they've been playing really well.
They've won 3 games in their last 10.
They started off hot. Well, I should say going to their All-Star break, they were playing. They had at one point won like, what was it, 10 or 11 in a row.
They are losers of 4 straight and are 3-7 in their last 10. They are not playing good basketball. No, I actually am gonna say that I don't think the Wizards would want to do this, and the reason is because I don't think they'd be wanting to give up draft capital in any way, because I think that team is looking to try to build through the draft going forward.
You almost got your first one wrong. But you're right. Fred Katz, the Wizards, says that Ellington is actually the type of guy that the Wizards would covet because they need extra 3-point shooting, but he's not sure that they would part with a second-round pick, particularly one that is as high as what they're giving up for a guy like Ellington.
And potentially the Pistons second-rounder or the Bulls second-rounder, yeah.
Yeah.
Nope, 100% agree with that.
All right. And then one other trade that we do want to talk about. Reports are the Pistons are interested in Aaron Gordon. I don't know.
See, okay. Aaron Gordon, don't get me wrong. He's a fine player. He's fun to watch. He's exciting. Like, he's he's good. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a good player, but I don't see why it would make sense for the Pistons to do this. And the reason I say that is because, like, it's not like he brings a ton of scoring. He averages 13 points a game this year, 13 and a half. He's never even averaged 18 points a game in a season. So it's not like he brings a ton of scoring. He's also injured pretty often, so he can't stay healthy. So if you ask me, I think you're looking at, like, tell me, how is this different from the Pistons bringing in Blake Griffin? Because by the time the Pistons are going to be winning with this roster the way it is, he's going to have reinvented his game to be less explosive, rely on jump shooting, which is exactly what Blake Griffin had to do.
Yeah, he's the exact. I mean, again, he's definitely younger than what Blake Griffin was when we brought him in. But at the same time, yeah, he's the exact type of player that doesn't have the type of longevity in the league that you would want. And if what Chris Haynes is saying from Maui Sports, saying that the price of trade for him is going to be substantial, in quotes, I don't know if I would pay a king's ransom to bring a guy in who I'm not sure is going to be as useful 4 or 5 years down the road.
No, I don't think so either. Like, sure, he's 25 years old now, but 3-4 years down the road, he's 28, 29, 30. He's not going to be the same player. In all reality, he's already not a guy that I can see being a cornerstone piece of this franchise.
Well, no, I agree.
Like, I don't see where he fits in with this roster as it is. Like, I don't, he's a name. That's all he is. I think there's more sizzle than steak when it comes to Aaron Gordon, and the numbers kind of back that up. I mean, how exciting is a guy who averages 13 and a half points and 7 rebounds a game? That doesn't move the needle for me. Yeah,
he's not the type of power forward that, like, his style of play is, again, getting phased out of today's NBA. He would have been a really fun player to have back in, like, the 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. That's exact, like, what he brings is exactly what you want out of a power forward. But now here's the interesting thing though about this, because I'm here trying to think, why would the Pistons inquire, knowing what Troy Weaver's been doing and just kind of the logic that he's been following. What sense would it make to inquire about Aaron Gordon? And
I legitimately can't think of a single reason why they would want him.
There's only one thing I can think of, is if Troy Weaver thinks he can somehow get a first-round pick out of the Magic. Maybe do a Jeremy Grant for Aaron Gordon swap and say, give me a first-round pick for Aaron Gordon, I'll give you Jeremy Grant. Like, that's the only way I can see it happening, and really just being in it for the pick.
See, I don't even like that, though.
No, I don't either. I don't want to. How many years is Aaron Gordon put those contracts?
I thought he just signed an extension. Okay, so he's got 1 year. He's got one more year after this year.
Okay.
At $16 million, and then he's a UFA.
Eesh.
So it would be, after next year, he'd be a UFA, and you probably don't re-sign him. But again, like, I was actually going to bring up the question of, would you rather have Aaron Gordon or Jeremy Grant? And my answer is Jeremy Grant. 100%.
100 times out of 100, Jeremy
exactly.
Grant.
I'd rather keep Jeremy Grant on the expensive $20 million a year contract than bring in Aaron Gordon on a deal on, 1 more year of an expiring deal and a first-round pick. Let me put it this way. Where the Magic are in the draft, which lottery, I think middle lottery, if I recall. Top lottery. They are top lottery.
4, I think, right?
Yeah, I think they're number 4. So they are number 4 in the lottery.
I have a theory about the Rockets. I'll talk about it after.
Ooh, I like theories. But sure, it's a top lottery pick, but at the same time, like, the chances of you getting, like, the realistic chances of you getting a guy that's going to be as good as Jeremy Grant, I can't necessarily say they're that great. Like, Jeremy Grant has come on and blossomed as a leader and a primary ball, a primary scorer for this team, and has shown flashes where he can seriously score. I don't know that you're getting that. And mind you, he also plays good defense, but I don't know what you're getting that with the number 4 lottery pick in the draft. And you may, don't get me wrong, like, having a top 5 pick, you definitely have that potential. But it's almost like saying 1 in the hand is better than 2 in the bush type of deal.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather keep Jeremy Grant, who's signed under contract, than bring in Aaron Gordon and a first-round pick that we may not get. I don't know. I don't see a fit with Aaron Gordon. Maybe I'm talking myself out of this a little bit because then you'd have 2 top 5 picks. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't like the idea of Aaron Gordon in a Pistons uniform.
No, I agree. It's, again, like I said, I just don't. That's a player just doesn't have as much utility in today's NBA, and just the fact, just watching him play, he's not as effective as at least not as effective as he was in his first couple years in the league. He was really fun to watch his first couple years.
Right.
But,
I mean, his numbers have like steadily dropped. Sure, his first couple of years in the league, he really didn't play that much. Let's go with that.
Unless he can keep his 3-point shooting above like 36%, which he hasn't been able to.
He's actually doing that this year. He's at 36.5% this year, but it's only 20 games. He's never done that otherwise, though.
Yeah, we'll see if it stays there.
So, I don't know. Does the idea of potentially like giving up Jeremy Grant for a top 5 pick, having 2 top 5 picks in this year's draft, does that kind of change your mind a little bit?
That's the thing. That's the only way I would be okay with this is if you're getting Orlando's first round pick, because that's just how highly I value the top portion of this draft. Basically, it's just full of difference makers.
Right, and I don't disagree with you at all. Like, I do have a lot of value in the top 5 of this draft, but like my only pause with that, I'm not saying my stopping point, my only pause with that is, what if one of these guys doesn't pan out, whether it be because of injury or whatever? What if one of those 2 guys pan out? Like, you had Jeremy Grant, who already was playing at a top 10 pick type level.
Yeah.
And you gave him up to then hit on only one of these 2 picks, you know? Like that right there doesn't sit as well with me. But again, that is the chance you take. You're right. It is. I don't know.
There's no guarantees of the draft. I mean, also you have 1 pick. Your odds of getting a stud are better with 2 than 1. I mean, it's just like there's no guarantees in the draft.
What if it guaranteed you the ability to move up to number 1 to get Cade Cunningham?
And I would pull the trigger in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah, I would.
Here's my thing about the draft, and it kind of goes into what I was about to say about Houston is, for one, I really fully do not expect Detroit to have the number 1 pick, even if we have the worst.
No, it's Detroit. You kidding me? It's Detroit.
We're going to get
good luck in the lottery.
I am fully expecting to get screwed. Let me put that out there.
Yes, we will probably end up picking like number 5 somehow, even though I don't even think it's possible.
Actually, that's our highest. If we say it 2, our highest odds.
Okay, it is our highest odds is number 5. Really?
Yep.
Okay, so we will probably end up picking number 5.
Why I hate the damn lottery.
They need to change that shit. It's terrible.
We have a better chance of actually no, we don't. We have almost an even chance of picking 5 or 6 as we do of 1 through 4.
We will definitely be picking number 6 then. You can sign it in the books right now.
But so here's the thing. I have just this gut feeling that Cade Cunningham is going to wind up in Houston.
Pay him back for James Harden?
Houston is fully tanking right now. They've lost, I believe, 16 in a row. They are now the third best. Well, the best lottery odds at number 3, like tie for the best. But yeah, they're number 3 in the lottery, and they are by far the biggest market team in the lottery. It's just the cards are aligning here for Houston to land Cade Cunningham, and it's going to piss me off, and it's going to happen, and it's going to screw the Pistons because it's going to push them back. And yeah, that's kind of my theory on Houston. Is I think I'm not going to seriously say the fix is in, but I really do feel like if Houston stays where they are, they're going to find themselves at 1.
You know, I actually don't disagree with you, and the reason I say that is looking at the other teams near the top of the lottery here: Detroit, Orlando, Washington, Cleveland,
Minnesota.
In the East, Minnesota, Houston, Sacramento. Outside of Detroit, all of the rest of those teams are relatively small markets, and one of which would never get a break from the NBA, outside of maybe Washington, but would never get a break from the NBA.
Yeah.
Houston, on the other hand, big market, like huge market, and a team that the NBA wants to be successful. And they had an opportunity with James Harden, and now this is a little bit of a LeBron treatment with Cleveland.
Yeah, so I'm saying, call me conspiracy theorist, but after the whole Cleveland thing, I just don't trust the NBA with the lottery. I'm sorry.
Lottery's been rigged for a long time, and then Houston's getting the number 1 pick. No question, because it ain't going to Minnesota. Who cares that the Timberwolves are a good team in the NBA? Nobody. Nobody outside of Minneapolis, anyways, or Minnesota. Frankly, I don't even think half that state cares.
Yeah, that's why I'm really cheering for Houston to pick up a couple wins and teams like Orlando, Washington, Cleveland to fall a bit, because if Houston falls outside of that top 5, they lose their pick. Their pick is top 4 protected. I think it goes to Minnesota if they lose it. I think it's Minnesota, but
that ain't happening. Houston's getting number 1.
Exactly. Like I think Houston is fully committed to the tank because they don't want to lose that pick, and if they're there, I just don't see them not being the number 1 pick.
I think Cade Cunningham's already got his Houston jersey hanging up in his bedroom.
That being said, though, the Athletic has released Mock Draft 3.0. And obviously they're using how the NBA currently stands. So they have Minnesota landing Cade Cunningham at number 1. Number 2, they have the Pistons taking Evan Mobley, the 7-foot center out of USC. Now, I have said I have gone on record on the show saying I don't want us to take a big. I don't want Mobley, but I've really been trying to convince myself on Mobley. And the more I watch of him, the closer I get to that. I'm still not fully on board. I still kind of prefer Jalen Suggs at the spot.
Yes. No, I don't even kind of prefer. I prefer Jalen Suggs.
Evan Mobley is such a damn unicorn that it's getting harder and harder to deny taking him at number 2. Like, you're talking about a 7-footer who can space the floor, who can protect the rim, who can rebound. Really, the only
let me put it this. Let me first cut you off there. If you're 7 feet and you can't protect the rim, you don't belong in this league. Unless you're Nikola Jokic and are just straight up a unicorn.
And here's the thing: there's plenty of them.
Yeah, I know it's terrible. But if you're 7 feet, you should be able to protect the rim, unless you have just elite level offensive abilities like Nikola Jokic.
And speaking of Nikola Jokic, he's a really good passer. I'm not going to say he's quite on the Jokic level, but he's definitely way above where he should be for his size and position. And so I think he could end up being, a few years down the road, one of the best passing centers in the league. And then you're talking about a guy who can step out to the perimeter and defend. He can step out to the perimeter and play offense. It's basically everything you'd want in a he's the epitome of the modern NBA center. So like that's where I'm convincing myself on it, but I'm still so scared because at 7 feet tall, he is only like 210 pounds. So the guy's a damn twig. So unless he can put some weight on, I'm still scared. There's still part of me that's scared. I just feel like Jalen Suggs has just as high of a ceiling and a lower floor. I mean, a higher floor. Sorry. So,
like, yes, you're not wrong. Like, he is, kind of sort of one of those unicorn type players. He is a floor spacer. He is able to shoot the ball, unlike a lot of bigs out there. I mean, I question a little bit of the passing abilities because he does only average 2.5 assists at USC, but I mean, it obviously is there for a college big to be able to to grab 2.5 assists a game. That obviously is there. I'm just a little bit curious to see how much that can progress and how much that can translate to the NBA. Mm-hmm. But again, though, looking at a guy like Jalen Suggs, who just has the look and the ability of a future superstar. I mean, that's why I lean a guy like that. And
he screams superstar to
right,
me,
and it's
Suggs.
A position that is.
In any other draft, he's a top pick. We have
right.
a generational talent with Cade Cunningham, and then you have a complete unicorn in Evan Mobley.
Right. Like, Jalen Suggs is a guy that, like, is in a position where superstars are there. You don't see too many superstar bigs. You have Joel Embiid and you have Nikola Jokic. Beyond that, who are the superstar bigs in the league? Karl Anthony Towns ain't that guy no more. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, who?
Sorry, who would you name?
I named... Sorry, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and then Karl Anthony Towns just ain't it anymore. So
one guy that he's been drawing some comps to that I think would qualify as superstar would be Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis, yeah. Okay, yes. Which, I mean, if he is Anthony Davis too, but again, he's not getting I don't see Anthony Davis 2.0, I'll be honest. He's not getting the same type of hype Anthony Davis was going into the draft. Like, Anthony Davis was known as a generational talent. Like, if he was that good, then we'd be talking about him more. Like, he would be going number 1. But Cade Cunningham is that generational talent in this draft.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it would be the smarter pick for the Pistons to go Jalen Suggs. But if they went with Evan Mobley, and, I mean, don't get me wrong, that is a position that they do need to fill for the future of this franchise. And Evan Mobley is a guy that would be attractive. No doubt. But Jalen Suggs sure seems like a lot better fit and a lot better scenario for the Pistons at that spot.
I'd love to have a backcourt of Killian. If Killian could pan out, backcourt of Killian and Jalen Suggs.
I don't know the way
nice.
Saban Lee's been playing. I'd love to have backcourt of Saban Lee and Jalen Suggs, man. Let me tell you.
Speaking of Killian, it looks like he's finally cleared for on-court activities, but it looks like he's going to be reevaluated again in 3 weeks. After which, I would probably say he probably played just after Easter. Then at that point, so like second week of April.
Which I know I've said I don't want to
court.
see him at all this year, but if you're telling me that he gets in for the final like 15 games of the year,
yeah, it's only like
I'm
a month
fine
of basketball.
with that.
Yeah.
Like I'm fine if he gets a month of basketball as long as he's not asked to play 30 minutes a game. You throw him in for 15, 20 minutes a game. Maybe he sees 25 on a good night. But if you ask him to do that, I have no issues with that. Give him some run. Allow him to have his rookie year.
And what's interesting is he's playing with a largely different starting unit than he came in with.
Yes, and probably will be even more changed after the deadline.
The two bigs he was feeding were Blake Griffin and Jahlil Okafor. Jahlil Okafor is irrelevant on this team at this point. I actually kind of forgot he was on the team.
Well, he's been injured, hasn't he?
I thought he just got buried. But,
no, I saw that
he was injured for a portion, but I thought like at this point he's just.
I thought he just went in, like they were testing him out in warm-ups like last night for the first time in months.
Interesting.
Or weeks, sorry.
And then obviously
22
Blake
hours
Griffin's
ago,
no longer
reports
there.
say Jahlil Okafor spotted getting shots up, so he definitely has been an injury type situation there.
Okay.
Yep,
But yeah,
he's been out with a knee injury. Expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, well there's where Jahlil Okafor went. But
yeah, this is already like a more high energy team than what Killian came in with, so it's going to be interesting to see. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Could you imagine a scenario where you have Killian Hayes, Saban Lee, Isaiah Stewart, and Sadiq Bey all on the floor at the same time?
I think I remember seeing a rotation where Troy Weaver did put the three rooks, the three of the rooks in Saban Lee, Sadiq, and Isaiah Stewart. I would love to see Killian complete that though.
Oh man, that would be so fun. I get so excited.
Do we have anything else on the Pistons?
No, I think that about covers it.
Did you see? By the way, did you see Dwayne Casey throwing shade at the Hawks? I think it was the Hawks and the Timberwolves. I want to say. They were asking why he chooses to keep saying restore instead of rebuild, and he was talking about how his dad used to restore like old cars.
Oh, I did see this actually.
And he's like, Pistons like have a winning tradition, and you want to restore that. There's nothing to restore in Atlanta or like
a place where nobody's ever won a damn thing.
I'm like, damn. Okay, Troy. Okay.
Oh man, no, I did see that. It was nice.
Yeah.
But that everything we got?
Oh, we didn't cover the Hamidou Diallo trade.
Oh, that's right. We do have the Hamidou Diallo trade. How do you feel
like
about
it.
that?
You like it?
I love it. I know. In all reality, I think Diallo is a guy who it's not really a reclamation project because he's still really young. I believe he wasn't drafted in last year's draft?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. And we've seen flashes of him being successful with OKC in the right opportunities. He's been successful, and you also got to remember Troy Weaver had a hand in drafting him over in OKC, so he obviously likes him. And I trust talent recognition with Troy Weaver as of right now. Like all the guys, at least most of the guys he's brought in, have exceeded my expectations in what they've done this year. So if Hamidou Diallo can come in and be a part of the future of this franchise, I'd absolutely love it. And I think he's really got a good shot, and he's going to get a good opportunity here. He is dealing with an injury at the moment. I believe he's dealing with a groin injury. On top of the COVID protocols, he's got to go through the whole quarantine thing because he changed teams, but he's also dealing with a groin injury, so we may not see him for a bit. But I do think he's a guy who will be exciting, and he is a little bit electric out there. He will be exciting in a Pistons uniform, so that's a guy to watch for the rest of the year for sure. Yeah,
it's a very different player from Zvi. I'll tell you that much. Like you're getting a guy who's a long athletic wing. He's a slasher, not much of a shooter. You know, I still think he's young enough where that could still be developed. But as of right now, he's not much of a shooter, but he's a really effective slasher, and he's actually a very strong defender, both on and off ball. So it's a complete 180 from what you had in Zvi, and I think much more of a Troy Weaver kind of guy because Troy Weaver has shown that he likes his long athletic players he likes his wingspans. So Yeah,
No,
no,
I like it. And you only had to give up a guy who probably wasn't a part of the future and a 2027 second round pick.
Yeah,
ain't nobody missing that in the near future. So he literally traded him for like a seventh grader.
Pistons will be championship contenders by then. Like, it's gonna be worthless.
So just imagine you're a seventh grader right now and realize you just got traded in the NBA. That's basically what just happened. But no, I like the trade. I think Diallo is, again, it's another situation where they're trying to get young. They're trying to find guys that can be a part of the future of this franchise. Because in all reality, for the most part, only having 2 picks in the draft, you can't build a whole team that way. So finding what you can other ways and doing it by bringing in young talent, that's the way that Troy Weaver obviously wants to do things, and I think it's going to succeed. So yeah, I like what he did there.
No, I agree.
So, but that is going to call it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for sticking with us through 100 episodes and to the next 100 as well, and hopefully more beyond that. But Andrew,
hopefully when we do episode number 200, we're talking about the Pistons contending for a championship, Lions contending for a Super Bowl.
That would be well ahead of our time schedules. But Andrew, thank you for joining me. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast, and thank you guys for listening. Follow us on Twitter at RealFanReport, and we will catch you guys next week with episode 101.
Where we give you the 101 on Pistons and Lions.
This has been the Fan Report by fans.
For fans.
We'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one. Peace out.
And keep telling dad jokes. Peace.